There are moments in destiny when the heavens grow silent, not because God is absent, but because he is arranging something too weighty to announce prematurely. There are seasons when you pray and it feels like your words are suspended in the atmosphere. But I came with a prophetic assurance for someone under the sound of my voice. Saturday, 14 February is not an ordinary day in your destiny. What you prayed for is about to find you. There is a mystery in the realm of the spirit called divine remembrance. When God remembers a man, protocols shift. When God remembers a family, history changes. When God remembers a generation, impossibilities bow. Scripture shows us that remembrance is not about memory, it is about intervention. When heaven remembers you, stagnation cannot continue. There is a dimension in the dealings of God with men that is called divine remembrance. It is not remembrance as humans understand it, because the one who is eternal does not forget. Divine remembrance is a spiritual intervention that is activated when a season has matured and when heaven decides that enough is enough. It is the moment when God steps into a situation that has lingered and announces by action that the delay has expired. When God remembers a man, cycles break. When God remembers a woman, patterns that lasted for years lose their legal ground. When God remembers a family, long-standing battles that seemed generational begin to crumble. Remembrance is heaven's verdict that the season of obscurity has served its purpose. It is the announcement that what was hidden is about to be revealed. There are people who love God, who pray sincerely, who live uprightly, and yet they experience seasons where nothing seems to move. Doors remain closed. Efforts appear fruitless. You try again and again, but the results do not reflect your labor. In such moments, the enemy plants a dangerous thought. Perhaps you have been forgotten. But divine remembrance proves that silence is not absence and delay is not neglect. In scripture, whenever God remembered someone, the result was undeniable transformation. When remembrance came, barren wombs opened. When remembrance came, imprisoned destinies were summoned to palaces. When remembrance came, drought seasons ended with abundance. Nothing remained the same, because remembrance is not sympathy, it is intervention backed by power. Divine remembrance is tied to covenant. God remembers his promises. He remembers the words he has spoken. He remembers the prayers that were offered in alignment with his will. When you stand on his word and continue believing, you are not shouting into emptiness. You are engaging covenant, and covenant compels remembrance. There is also a mystery about tears. Many people underestimate the language of tears in the spirit. Words can be rehearsed, but tears are raw. When a man cries before God in sincerity, something ascends beyond vocabulary. Heaven does not treat those moments casually. Divine remembrance often responds to seasons of quiet, hidden surrender. You may not have an audience on earth, but heaven witnessed every midnight prayer. Remembrance is not triggered by noise. It is triggered by alignment and timing. God works with times and seasons. There are things you asked for years ago that could not have been given to you then, because you were not yet the version of yourself capable of stewarding them. If remembrance had happened prematurely, the blessing would have become a burden. So God allows growth, character formation, and spiritual capacity to develop before the intervention comes. When remembrance finally manifests, it often looks sudden to observers. People will say it happened overnight. But what they do not see is the years of preparation, the unseen obedience, the hidden refining. Divine remembrance compresses time. It can restore years in a moment. It can bring opportunities that compensate for seasons of waiting. What seemed lost can be restored with interest. There are times when remembrance also exposes what opposed you. Situations that were held back by invisible resistance suddenly move forward. Applications that were ignored are revisited. Decisions that were postponed are approved. Conversations that were delayed are initiated. It is not coincidence. It is divine orchestration. You must understand that remembrance is personal. God does not bless crowds generically. He intervenes in individual stories. He knows your name, your struggle, your silent questions. He knows the moments you felt weak but chose not to quit. When remembrance comes, it addresses the specific area where you have trusted him the most. However, there is a posture that positions you for remembrance, faithfulness. Continue doing what is right even when it feels unnoticed. Continue serving even when recognition is absent. Continue believing even when evidence is scarce. Faithfulness builds a memorial before God. And when the appointed time arrives, that memorial speaks. Divine remembrance also demands readiness. When heaven moves on your behalf, you must be prepared to respond. If God opens a door, you must have the courage to walk through it. If he restores a relationship, you must have the maturity to sustain it. If he releases increase, you must have the discipline to manage it. Remembrance is powerful, but stewardship preserves what remembrance delivers. There are people in this season who are closer to divine remembrance than they realize. The frustration you felt was not a sign of abandonment. It was the tension before transition. The pressure was not punishment. It was preparation. Something has been aligning behind the scenes. People you have never met are being positioned. Opportunities you did not know about are being arranged. When God remembers you, announcements are not always made in advance. The shift can begin quietly. A phone call, an email, a conversation, a divine instruction. Suddenly, what you have waited for begins to unfold. And in that moment, you will realize that heaven was never silent. It was strategic. Hold this truth deeply. Divine remembrance is real. It is not poetry. It is power. It is the assurance that your labor in faith is not wasted. It is the confirmation that your story is not concluded by delay. When remembrance speaks, stagnation bows. When remembrance moves, destiny advances. And when God remembers you, nothing and no one can reverse what he has decided to do. Persistent prayer is the heartbeat of faith. It is the measure of a life that refuses to accept defeat. The rhythm of a soul that refuses to settle for anything less than the promise of God. Many people pray once, twice, maybe 3 times. And when the answer does not come immediately, they conclude that God is silent, that their efforts are wasted. But persistent prayer is different. It is not satisfied with the first attempt. It does not quit at the first obstacle. And it does not falter when circumstances seem to oppose you. Persistent prayer understands that delay does not mean denial, and that heaven responds to those who refuse to relent. Prayer is not just a conversation with God. It is a spiritual activity that sets in motion forces that cannot be seen by the natural eye. Every time you pray, you are not simply speaking. You are declaring, aligning, and activating. Each word you utter, each groan of your spirit, each tear that falls adds weight in the spiritual realm. Persistent prayer compounds. It is like a river cutting through rock. not because of violence, but because of consistency over time. The power of persistent prayer lies in its ability to build spiritual momentum. What seems small at first, over time becomes unstoppable. Persistence in prayer is also a form of partnership with God. The scriptures tell us to pray without ceasing. This command is not about empty repetition or ritual. It is about establishing a lifestyle where dependence on God is constant. When you pray persistently, you are demonstrating trust in God's timing and sovereignty. You are telling heaven, I will not give up because I know you are faithful. I will not relent because I know your word is true. I will continue until the breakthrough manifests. This level of persistence becomes a spiritual force that heaven cannot ignore. Many prayers fail to produce results, not because God is unwilling, but because they are abandoned too soon. Some people start with faith, but quickly lose momentum when the answer does not appear. Some pray in bursts only when crises hit, rather than maintaining a steady, consistent posture of intercession. Persistent prayer is different. It refuses to be discouraged. It does not require visible results to continue. It does not demand immediate evidence to maintain faith. It trusts that the unseen is working, even when the seen appears stagnant. Persistent prayer also positions you to receive from God. There are answers that cannot be released to someone who prays sporadically. Timing matters in the realm of the spirit. Heaven releases what it has to those who are prepared, and persistent prayer prepares you. It strengthens your faith, it matures your character, and it aligns your spirit with the frequency of God's provision. Those who pray consistently are the ones ready to recognize, receive, and steward the answer when it finally arrives. Another aspect of persistent prayer is resilience in the face of opposition. The enemy is aware that persistent prayer has the capacity to alter destinies. That is why he often brings discouragement, distraction, or delay to try to wear you down. But the law of persistent prayer is clear. The longer you hold on, the stronger your spiritual position becomes. Every time you refuse to quit, every time you rise to pray again despite setbacks, you are building a legal framework in heaven that compels response. Persistence transforms weakness into strength and delay into opportunity. Persistent prayer is also a teacher. It reveals the depth of your faith, the sincerity of your heart, and the intensity of your desire for God's will. It exposes areas where compromise or doubt might exist. It demands self-examination, humility, and unwavering trust. Through the discipline of constant prayer, the believer matures. You begin to understand that prayer is not just about getting, it is about growing. It is not just about the miracle, it is about the transformation of the one who prays. Consider the example of prayers that seemed unanswered for years. When God finally responds, it is often in a way that exceeds imagination. The cumulative power of persistent prayer produces results that sudden, occasional prayer cannot. It is like planting seeds daily in soil, watering, nurturing, and trusting that the harvest will come. Eventually, the season changes, and the growth that was invisible becomes visible. The breakthrough that seemed delayed is suddenly undeniable. So, the law of persistent prayer is simple yet profound. Do not quit. Refuse to be satisfied with mediocrity. Continue speaking to God. Continue seeking his face. Continue pressing for answers. and continue trusting his timing. Heaven has a memory and it responds to consistent faith. Persistence turns prayers from wishes into legal claims in the spiritual realm. It activates divine momentum that is unstoppable and irreversible. Persistent prayer is the pathway to divine intervention. It is the key that unlocks what ordinary effort cannot achieve. It ensures that what is meant for your life will find you because you refuse to quit. It teaches patience, refines character, strengthens faith, and guarantees that the season of waiting is not wasted. Keep praying, keep believing, keep expecting. For the law of persistent prayer is not optional. It is the spiritual principle that ensures your breakthrough arrives in its fullness. There is a secret in the realm of the spirit that many believers overlook. Timing is everything. The universe is not random, and the events of your life are not coincidental. Divine alignment is the principle that ensures that when God's promises manifest, everything is in place to receive them. Many people pray for breakthroughs, miracles, or opportunities, but they fail to realize that answers are only released to those who are positioned to receive them. You cannot claim what you are not aligned for, and heaven will not deliver what you cannot steward. Alignment is more than simply asking God for something. It is a state of preparation in which your heart, mind, actions, and spirit are positioned to receive. It is a convergence of your obedience, your faith, and your readiness with God's will. Many prayers remain unanswered, not because God is unwilling, but because the person praying is not in alignment. The blessings of God require spiritual receptivity, moral readiness, and relational maturity. Timing ensures that when the answer arrives, it arrives without being wasted. The concept of timing in divine alignment is seen in the lives of biblical figures. Joseph spent years in the pit and in prison. David waited while Saul still ruled. Esther's intervention came precisely when the king's heart was ready. These were not delays in the natural sense. They were seasons of alignment. While waiting, their character, influence, and wisdom were being prepared to fully manage what was coming. When the appointed time arrived, the breakthrough did not just happen. It exploded, overwhelming every opposition and fulfilling every promise. Divine alignment also means that God's answer will often meet you at the intersection of preparation and opportunity. If the timing is wrong, even the best intentions can fail. You may pray for a promotion, but if you are not disciplined in your current role, the promotion will bring you frustration instead of blessing. You may pray for relationships or partnerships, but if your heart is not healed or your character is not refined, the relationship will bring destruction instead of fulfillment. Timing ensures that God's provision is both effective and sustainable. Many people fail to recognize alignment because it works invisibly. You may not see the shifts happening in your favor. Opportunities may appear subtly. A conversation that connects you with the right person, a sudden understanding of a strategy, or a series of events that direct you toward your destiny. These are spiritual preparations in motion, positioning you for the answer. While you wait, your role is not passive. It is active obedience. Every right choice, every act of faith, every display of patience moves you closer to alignment. Divine alignment also protects you. Heaven does not release some blessings until the recipient is ready, because premature reception can result in loss, failure, or misuse. Timing is a safeguard. It ensures that when doors open, you are capable of walking through them without stumbling. It ensures that when influence is given, you can manage it with wisdom. It ensures that when financial increase comes, you can handle it responsibly. God's timing is perfect because it synchronizes your readiness with your reward. Another dimension of alignment is relational. Some answers in life do not come to individuals alone. They come through others. There are people, mentors, allies, or even challengers whose paths must intersect with yours for the manifestation to occur. Divine timing arranges these connections. Often, the breakthrough you prayed for finds you through someone else who was divinely positioned to deliver it. When alignment meets timing, relationships converge, resources synchronize, and the atmosphere shifts in your favor. You must also understand that divine timing requires patience. Waiting is not inactivity. Waiting is the cultivation of readiness. Many people pray, then become restless and take matters into their own hands. When you act outside of God's timing, you risk misalignment, missing the very blessing you prayed for. Patience and persistence are not opposing principles. They work together. Persistent prayer maintains your spiritual connection, while patience ensures you remain in divine alignment. The law of alignment and timing is also a law of momentum. When heaven moves to release an answer, it does not stop halfway. Once the appointed moment arrives, the breakthrough accelerates. What was delayed suddenly becomes immediate. Opportunities converge, resources flow, situations shift. Those who are aligned will find the answer manifesting naturally. Those who are misaligned will encounter obstacles, delay, and confusion. Alignment determines the efficiency of heaven's response. Divine alignment is therefore not accidental. It is intentional. God's Spirit works behind the scenes to prepare you. Every challenge you face, every season of testing, every quiet moment of obedience is arranging you for what is coming. Every act of faithfulness, every moment of humility, every choice to trust rather than complain is synchronizing your spirit with the timing of heaven. When the answer comes, it will find you fully prepared, fully ready, and fully capable. Alignment and timing teach us trust. They remind us that God is never late even when it feels like it. The delay is not a denial, and the waiting is not a punishment. Every season of preparation, every period of quiet, every moment of spiritual refining is ensuring that the blessing you have prayed for does not just arrive, but arrives in its fullness. When divine alignment meets the appointed time, the manifestation is unstoppable, undeniable, and perfectly orchestrated for your life. There is a principle in the spiritual realm that is often underestimated: the power of words. Words are not merely expressions of thought, they are vehicles of authority. When faith-filled words are spoken, they carry a weight that resonates beyond the natural and into the supernatural. This is the essence of prophetic declaration. When you declare by faith what God has promised, you are not simply expressing hope. You are activating a spiritual principle that compels heaven to respond. Prophetic declaration is rooted in the understanding that faith speaks. The Bible is full of examples where speaking aligned with God's promise changed reality. God spoke the worlds into existence. Abraham declared the promises of God over Isaac before he was born. Moses spoke to the Red Sea and it parted. The key principle is this: when your words are connected to God's purpose and promise, they become instruments of manifestation. Faith-filled declaration bridges the invisible and the visible. Many people pray silently, hoping God will act. Prayer is essential, but there is something different about declaration. Declaration carries authority. Declaration creates expectation. Declaration aligns your spirit with heaven. When you pray silently, only you know your faith. When you declare, heaven, earth, and every opposing force hear your position. Prophetic words are not casual statements. They are spiritual commands that activate what is already positioned for you in the unseen. Prophetic declaration also strengthens the speaker. Every time you declare God's word over your situation, your faith is reinforced. Words shape belief. Speaking out loud what God has promised builds confidence in his faithfulness. It reminds your spirit that heaven is not passive and that your labor in faith is not wasted. When you declare what God has promised, your heart aligns with his and your actions begin to follow the declaration. Your mouth becomes a partner with heaven. There is a law in the spirit. Words carry life or death. What you speak can change your situation or reinforce limitation. Negative words can strengthen the enemy's hold. Fear-filled words can give power to delay. But prophetic declaration, when rooted in faith and aligned with God's will, becomes a weapon against stagnation, opposition, and doubt. It breaks chains that no natural effort could remove. It commands environments, situations, and even seasons to shift. Prophetic declaration is also about persistence. One declaration may open a door, but continued declaration secure and expand the breakthrough. Many believers underestimate the need to continually declare God's promises. Just as persistent prayer builds spiritual momentum, persistent declaration builds authority in the unseen. It is not repetition without meaning. It is consistency with intent. Every time you declare, you reinforce the spiritual reality of your promise. Timing matters in prophetic declaration. There are seasons when heaven is waiting for the alignment of your voice. Sometimes the declaration itself is the missing link between the promise and the manifestation. The words you release in faith create a pathway for God's power to flow. When you speak according to God's word, you are not requesting permission. You are activating what has already been prepared. The declaration positions you to receive what God has already planned. Prophetic declaration is not only for personal breakthroughs, it impacts the environment around you. Your declaration can shift the atmosphere in a room, bring hope to the discouraged, and provoke favor where it is needed. Your faith-filled words can ignite courage in others, establish peace in tense situations, and awaken purpose in dormant areas. The tongue, when guided by the Spirit, becomes a channel of divine influence that extends beyond your own life. Another critical aspect of prophetic declaration is the combination of faith and expectation. Declaration without belief is empty. Words must carry conviction. You cannot declare something you do not believe. Faith is the engine and the declaration is the vehicle. They work together. The more you declare what God has promised, the stronger your faith becomes and the more powerful the manifestation. This is why the word of the prophet or the declaration of a believer aligned with God carries extraordinary impact. Prophetic declaration also teaches responsibility. When you declare God's promises over your life, you are entering into covenant with heaven. You are saying, I believe and I will act in accordance with this word. This requires integrity, patience, and discipline. It demands that you live in alignment with what you are declaring. Heaven honors the declaration, but it also requires the believer to walk consistently in faith. Finally, prophetic declaration ensures that the invisible becomes visible. Many blessings, breakthroughs, and interventions exist in the spiritual realm long before they appear naturally. Your declaration is the mechanism that calls them into manifestation. It is the sound that tells heaven, I am ready to receive. It is the command that shakes opposition. It is the faith expression that says, I trust your word above what I see. The principle is clear. When you declare in faith, you participate actively in the fulfillment of your destiny. Persistent, faith-filled, spirit-led declaration changes your life. It turns promises into reality. It transforms delay into immediacy. It activates heaven's response and aligns your life with the will of God. There is power in your words. There is authority in your voice. Speak boldly. Declare faithfully. The supernatural response to your declaration and what you speak in faith will begin to manifest in your life. Delay is one of the most subtle tools the enemy uses to frustrate destiny. It does not attack with noise or obvious force. It creeps in quietly, creating doubt, discouragement, and distraction. Many believers pray, fast, and position themselves for breakthrough, yet find that progress is painfully slow. The enemy whispers, it's too late, it will never happen, you are forgotten. Delay can make even the most faithful question God's promises. But the truth is that delay is not denial. It is often the enemy's attempt to steal, kill, and destroy before heaven can release what is due. To experience the fullness of God's promise, the spirit of delay must be confronted and broken. The spirit of delay is an invisible force that holds back timing. It manifests as setbacks, postponed opportunities, miscommunication, and repeated failures. You may notice doors that should open remaining shut, answers to prayer lingering in suspense, or plans that never seem to materialize. This spirit is not from God. It is a tactic of opposition designed to make you weary, but understanding its nature gives you authority to resist it. Delays are spiritual, and therefore they can be overcome spiritually. Breaking the spirit of delay begins with awareness. You must recognize that what appears as mere bad timing or circumstantial failure may have a spiritual origin. Every prolonged frustration, every repeated postponement, every stalled opportunity is a legal foothold that the enemy attempts to maintain. But spiritual authority is given to those who know how to act. Your prayers, declarations, and faith-filled actions create pressure that disrupts the power of delay. Once you recognize the delay as a spiritual issue, you move from passivity to action. One key to breaking the spirit of delay is persistent, faith-filled prayer. Delay thrives in silence and inactivity. When you pray persistently, you are creating spiritual momentum that heaven cannot ignore. Your continuous intercession, aligned with God's word and will, begins to release the chains that have held back your breakthrough. There is power in steadfast prayer. It is a direct confrontation with every force attempting to stall your destiny. The more persistent your faith, the more pressure you place on delay, and the sooner it breaks. Another powerful weapon against delay is prophetic declaration. Speaking God's promises aloud is a way to accelerate what seems slow. When you declare that your season of waiting is over, you are not expressing impatience. You are asserting authority over spiritual laws. Your words carry life and power. They break the chains that delay attempts to hold. Every time you speak God's promises over your life with faith, you are sending a signal to heaven that the appointed time has arrived. Delay cannot withstand the authority of faith-filled words. Preparation is also essential. when breaking the spirit of delay. God does not release what you are not ready to manage, and the enemy knows this. This is why some seasons of waiting feel long. They are periods of refinement. While you pray, declare, and contend against delay, God is preparing you to handle the breakthrough. Spiritual readiness ensures that when delay breaks, you are not overwhelmed by what arrives. Preparation and prayer together create both authority and receptivity, making the destruction of delay both possible and effective. Faith is the foundation for overcoming delay. Even when circumstances seem immovable, believing that God is faithful gives you strength to continue. The spirit of delay thrives on doubt and fear. When you choose faith over frustration, you remove the power the enemy relies on. Faith is not passive. It is active trust, persistent expectation, and confident reliance on God's timing. Faith puts delay in its proper place, under authority, temporary, and powerless over what God has ordained. Spiritual warfare is also involved in breaking delay. Many delays are sustained by principalities and powers that operate invisibly to obstruct destiny. Through prayer, fasting, and spiritual authority, believers can confront and dismantle these strongholds. Delay that has lasted years can crumble in moments of determined, spirit-led confrontation. When you understand that your breakthrough is a spiritual battle, you no longer accept frustration passively. You engage with authority and expect victory. Breaking the spirit of delay is both immediate and ongoing. Immediate, because God can release intervention at any moment. Ongoing, because persistent vigilance ensures that the enemy does not re-establish footholds. Every act of faith, every declaration, every step of obedience strengthens your position. Delay cannot return where authority has been exercised. Once you break its hold, doors open, timelines shift, and your prayers begin to manifest visibly. Finally, breaking the spirit of delay aligns you with divine timing. Heaven has a schedule for your life. Delay is the enemy's attempt to intercept that schedule. When you pray, declare, and exercise faith, you remove obstruction and restore momentum to the appointed time. The chains of postponement are shattered, and the blessing that was due begins to manifest. Delay is defeated not by complaining or doubting, but by faith, action, and spiritual authority. Delay may have tried to define your life, but it does not have the final word. Your breakthrough is unstoppable when the spirit of delay is confronted with prayer, declaration, faith, and preparation. The season of waiting is over. The chains are broken. What the enemy held back is being released, and your destiny will no longer be postponed. Breakthrough will arrive, because delay cannot withstand persistent faith, authoritative words, and God's perfect timing. There is a principle in the life of every believer that is often overlooked. God releases blessings to those who are ready to receive them. Many pray diligently, fast, intercede, and contend for breakthroughs. Yet when the answer comes, they are unable to receive it fully. Being prepared for the answer is more than simply expecting it. It is a posture of readiness in character, mindset, and spirit. God does not give what will destroy or overwhelm. He releases what aligns with your capacity, maturity, and stewardship. The preparation you undergo ensures that the blessing will produce fruit and not frustration. Preparedness begins in the heart. God often tests the desires of your heart before answering your prayers. Are your motives pure? Do you seek his blessing for self-glory or for divine purpose? Character is a key element in receiving answers. Many promises are delayed, not because God is unwilling, but because the heart is not ready to manage the responsibility that accompanies the blessing. A person who is not prepared may receive, but the blessing may become a burden rather than a benefit. True preparation ensures that the blessing will build you up, your family, and your community. Spiritual readiness is equally essential. There is a difference between wanting something and being spiritually equipped to handle it. When God releases answers, he often sends accompanying grace, wisdom, and discernment. Those who are unprepared may find themselves overwhelmed, confused, or misled. Preparation involves cultivating a relationship with God, listening to his voice, and aligning your actions with his will. It involves obedience in small things so that you are trusted with larger ones. Your preparation ensures that the answer does not arrive prematurely or become wasted. Another aspect of preparation is the development of patience. God's timing is perfect, and often the season of waiting is designed to mature you. Patience strengthens endurance, teaches trust, and refines faith. When you are prepared, you understand that the arrival of the answer is not random, it is strategic. Patience ensures that when the blessing comes, you receive it with gratitude, humility, and wisdom. Those who are hurried or impatient may encounter pitfalls or squander opportunities, but the prepared heart knows how to steward divine timing. Being prepared also requires financial, emotional, and relational readiness. God's blessings often intersect multiple areas of life. Financial increase, for instance, requires discipline to manage. New opportunities require emotional maturity to navigate challenges. Relationships require wisdom to maintain harmony. Preparation ensures that when God opens doors, you can walk through them confidently and responsibly. Without preparation, a blessing can become a trial rather than a triumph. God prepares you not to limit the blessing, but to maximize it. Faith is central to preparedness. To be ready for the answer, you must believe that it is coming. Many fail to recognize blessings when they arrive because doubt clouds perception. Faith keeps your eyes on the unseen, sustaining expectation even when circumstances suggest otherwise. Preparedness is not passive, it is active trust combined with consistent action. Your faith positions you to recognize opportunities, make the right choices, and respond with wisdom when the answer finally manifests. Preparation also involves understanding the nature of responsibility. Every answer comes with stewardship. A promotion comes with accountability. Influence comes with discernment, and increase comes with management. God prepares you so that you can handle what he releases. Those who fail to recognize this often receive prematurely or misuse what is given. Spiritual, emotional, and practical readiness ensures that the blessing elevates your life rather than destabilizes it. Preparation transforms potential chaos into divine order. Discipline is another cornerstone of readiness. Being prepared for the answer often requires consistency in personal habits, spiritual practices, and decision making. Discipline cultivates reliability, focus, and resilience. When God releases a breakthrough, those who are disciplined can navigate challenges and sustain the blessing. Without discipline, the answer may be squandered. Preparation ensures that when the time comes, you are able to seize and maintain what God has promised. Preparedness also includes humility and gratitude. A prepared heart recognizes that the blessing is not entitlement, but a gift. Gratitude positions you to receive more while humility ensures that you respond to success with wisdom and grace. God honors those who are prepared spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. The moment of answer is not merely the fulfillment of a prayer. It is the reward of a life aligned with God's purposes. Finally, being prepared for the answer is a mindset. Expectation without preparation leads to disappointment. But when you anticipate, cultivate, and align your life with God's principles, you become a vessel ready for increase. Preparation involves prayer, study, obedience, character development, patience, and faith. It positions you to walk confidently into the manifestation of your destiny. God's answers do not find the unready, they locate the prepared. Your readiness determines not only the timing of the blessing, but the extent to which it can transform your life. Every breakthrough requires preparation. God does not release what will harm or overwhelm. He releases what aligns with your capacity, readiness, and stewardship. A prepared heart, mind, and spirit ensure that the answer you have prayed for is received fully, utilized wisely, and produces lasting impact. To be ready is to embrace patience, discipline, character, faith, and gratitude. The blessing that is coming will find you ready, and when it arrives, it will manifest in its fullness, elevating your life in ways that only God could orchestrate. As we draw near to the manifestation of what you have longed for, it is important to understand that God's timing is perfect and his ways are higher than ours. The breakthrough you have been praying for is not accidental. It is the result of persistent faith, unwavering prayer, and alignment with his will. Every tear, every moment of intercession, every declaration of faith has been recorded in heaven. And now the season of waiting is ending. What you prayed for is no longer distant. It is finding you, and it will arrive with power, precision, and purpose. Do not allow fear, doubt, or impatience to cloud your expectation. The enemy may have tried to deceive you with delays, setbacks, and unanswered moments, but these were never denials. They were seasons of preparation, seasons designed to align your heart, mind, and spirit with the blessings you are about to receive. God honors readiness, rewards faithfulness, and responds to persistence. Your breakthrough will not only meet your needs, but will also elevate your capacity, open new doors, and position you for the next level of destiny. Now is the time to step into expectation. Declare boldly, pray persistently, and walk in obedience. Every spiritual chain holding back your progress is being broken. Every opportunity that has been waiting for alignment is now being unlocked. What you have believed for, what you have hoped for, and what you have labored for will manifest in fullness. Prepare yourself to receive with gratitude, humility, and faith, for the answer is coming, and it will find you exactly where you are, transforming your life, restoring your joy, and confirming that God is faithful. Saturday, 14 February marks the day when your prayers converge with divine intervention. Believe it, receive it, and testify to it. For the God who has kept every promise will never abandon his plan for your life.